What's going on, everyone? Frank from 5 AM Ramen here in snowy Sapporo City, Hokkaido. This is Miso Ramen territory, and as such, I'm going to be introducing the best miso ramen restaurants in Sapporo. The best Sapporo miso ramen. Let's go. This is 5 AM Ramen, your top source for all things ramen in Japan. I'm Frank, and ramen soup flows through my veins. This is the third video in an extensive Hokkaido ramen series. We're visiting Hokkaido during the depths of winter. Hokkaido, Japan's frozen northernmost island, is often referred to as a ramen kingdom. This is for good reason, as Hokkaido overflows with delicious ramen. In short, ramen makes sense up here. What else would you eat to offset such cold temperatures? In the previous episode, episode 2, we were in Hakodate, Hokkaido's third largest city. It's known for its picturesque hills, turn-of-the-century Western architecture, and transparent shio, or salt-seasoned ramen. We had the best shio ramen in Hakodate, along with some other food too. Last night though, we said goodbye to Hakodate and hello to Sapporo. And get ready, because this episode is in Sapporo, which is Hokkaido's largest city and most famous. This includes ramen. Miso Ramen is the name of the game here, and Sapporo Miso Ramen is considered to be one of the big three ramen styles in Japan, along with Hakata Ramen and Kitakata Ramen. Hakodate City was cold, especially since this idiot here lost his gloves. Naturally, Sapporo is also cold, but the biggest notable difference between the two cities is that the walls of snow are much higher in Sapporo. Sapporo literally gets buried in snow every winter. On the sidewalks, it's just about living with it, piling it up and carving out pathways as best as you can for pedestrians like me. We'll be using these pathways to get to some of the greatest miso ramen shops in all of Japan. And here we go! At my hotel, I grab a light breakfast to start the day. That is a coffee and a little bit of food as a warm-up for my stomach. I figure out our ramen route over breakfast, and after that, we're off. I'm making my way, slipping and sliding to the first miso ramen shop of the day. The first miso ramen shop we're hitting is Keyaki, one of Sapporo's finest. Keyaki is conveniently located in the Susukino district of Sapporo, which is one of Japan's biggest entertainment districts. They serve miso ramen and spicy miso ramen. Do one thing and do it well, as they say. Between the two, regular miso ramen and spicy miso ramen, the regular miso ramen is the dish that they're most proud of. The soup is as smooth as silk, boiled for 10 hours on high heat. It's pork bones, whole chickens, pork lard, and pork back fat. The miso flavors are still in charge though. They use 3 types of miso and vegetables for the seasoning. Furthermore, with all the vegetable toppings, you definitely get your vegetable intake with this bowl. More from me on the ground. Great way to start the day. Miso ramen brunch. I guess technically still lunch. And I'm right now in the red light-ish district of Sapporo. And as such, it's pretty quiet here. A lot of these places, I think they only come alive at night. But Kayaki, the ramen restaurant I just visited, is of course open for lunch. What's nice about Kayaki's bowl is that it's a softer, gentler miso ramen. It's rich, there's a fair amount of lard in the soup, but it's got an overall gentle flavor. The miso there, shining through, but definitely on the gentler, softer side. And to match that, they've got a lot of vegetables that are stir-fried, nice smokiness to the bowl, piping hot. And out of all the vegetables, the crunchy cabbage stands out. There's so much of it. And they add some sweetness to that soup as well. Pretty thick, wavy noodles, as is the case in Sapporo miso ramen, and minced pork instead of sliced chashu pork, giving the broth a little bit of meatiness as well. It's a tiny, cozy little spot, top ranked here in Sapporo. So if you're craving a miso ramen that's on the gentler, softer side, but still packed with flavor and has a lot of vegetables, this spot, Keyaki, is for you. The next place I'm visiting cranks up the richness of their miso ramen. So this is gonna be a heavier, richer bowl, and it's right around the corner. Yukikaze is the ramen shop that serves this. 3 years in a row, they've been on Tabelog's top 100 ramen shop list for East Japan. The rich miso ramen is their top seller. The base consists of 3 types of miso, and the soup is pork bones, chicken bones, and dried tuna flakes. As advertised, the result is a thick and rich soup. But it's not over the top in terms of richness, nor is it messy. It's carefully refined. This is even with the strong flavors, including garlic. For the toppings, white spring onions and crunchy wood ear mushrooms. There's also half an egg and a massive slab of fatty pork belly. Let's get my thoughts on this award-winning bowl right after I demolish it. All right, back inside at the hotel, and those Sapporo Miso Ramen noodles, they are thick and heavy. It's different when I'm in, for example, say Fukuoka, where the noodles are nice and thin. I could crush 4 bowls in a day, no problem. Here, of course, I'm gonna try my best, and I'm sure I can do it. But yeah, those back-to-back bowls, I'm already feeling them just sitting in my stomach with those thick noodles. Anyways, delicious bowls, and most recently at Yukikaze, the miso ramen was a little bit different from Kayaki. It had a much stronger garlicky flavor. And it was rich, but it was still very refined. The way they boil everything down in the soup, everything was deliberate and nice presentation as well. What put me over the top too was that huge slice of chashu pork. Really nice and fatty on one side, but massive block. So sliced chashu pork instead of minced pork, similar noodles, and similarly small interior. This place is normally open pretty late too, which makes sense given the surrounding area. Nice garlic-powered miso ramen. And with those noodles sitting in my stomach, I think I'm gonna take a break here for a little bit at the hotel and get back out in a little bit. Stay tuned for Miso Ramen Shop number 3 here in Sapporo. Miso Ramen Shop number 3 might just serve the most famous miso ramen in all of Japan. They're also on Tabelog's top 100 East Japan ramen list. I'm now walking to what some people regard to be the very best, the ultimate bowl of miso ramen in not just Sapporo, but all of Japan. Saimi. Expectations are high. Let's see if they are met. Saimi does Jun Sumike, or Junren Sumire style miso ramen, which means a miso seasoned rich soup with a thick layer of pork lard on top. But there's something extra special about Saimi's rendition. The miso charged soup has strong garlic notes and is overall rich from chicken and pork bones. However, there's this additional finesse, if you will. It's magical. Clearly noticeable among toppings is the bright yellow dollop of ginger. It's high quality ginger all the way from Kochi Prefecture, and it electrifies that rich soup. Before we get to my recap of this magical bowl at Saimi, here's a message from our ramen sponsor, me. The same Saimi I just talked about has their own official premium instant ramen. We'll include it if you order a ramen pack from Instant Ramen Japan. Your ramen pack will have 5 miso ramen in total, and will also include the official instant ramen from Keyaki, the other miso ramen shop that we just visited. To order this special pack, use the coupon code SAIMI at checkout so we know what to send you. Details below in the description. Okay, so here's my recap of Saimi after I'm back in my hotel room again. Miso ramen at Saimi. There's a big reason why many people think Saimi is the pinnacle of miso ramen, and it didn't disappoint. And this is even after 2 bowls right before. I think when I'm on the 3rd or 4th bowl, it's a little bit harder to distinguish just because I'm so full, but Saimi still stood out like a shining star. At the same time, because my expectations were high and I sort of expected it to be a great bowl, I really enjoyed it, but I was like, yep, this is what I expected it would be. It was a sumire style lardy soup, but arguably with a little bit more finesse, let's say. Still a heavy-hitting bowl with that miso charged soup and that richness from chicken bones and pork bones, and that thick layer of pork lard. There was some careful fine-tuning in the bowl, and not in the way that at Santora, which I'm going to use as an example to contrast with. Santora in Tokyo also is from the Sumire school of miso ramen, and they add more fish elements. Here, I don't believe they're adding more fish elements, but there was something about the way it tasted and the way it was presented that was still very careful. You could tell this was a recipe they worked very hard on. And it gave me a hard on. Noodles wonderfully springy, That's what you're gonna get in Sapporo. What I liked among the toppings were actually the bean sprouts. They were super crunchy and super smoky. Bean sprouts are kind of a boring topping because they're basically all water. But in miso ramen, if you stir fry them well and season them well, they can really help make the ramen come alive and add a wonderful contrast in terms of crunch. As I was sitting there, you could really hear him going to work with the wok. This is what's unique about miso ramen, having great wok skills. You need to walk before you can run. Great bowl at Saimi. Very happy I was able to cross this one off the list. Now I'm gonna rest up a little bit before our final ramen shop of the day, and this is a ramen shop that's doing miso ramen here in Sapporo, but with a twist, a modern twist. They're changing things up in a fun, exciting way. This modern ramen shop, called AM Yasashiku, is the farthest away from the bunch today. So I took the bus up a little of the way, but my transfer bus didn't show up, and I didn't want to wait any more than I already did, so I decided to trek the rest of the way. It was quite an adventure, navigating through a maze of ice and snow. I felt like it was Rocky IV, and it was the training montage. I finally made it to Amiwa Yasashiku, and I couldn't be more relieved. I was cold, even with the workout to get there. Amiwa Yasashiku has a couple choices on the ramen menu, but this is the one to order. This tower of a ramen is certainly unique. What's fun is that you get to choose the seasoning: miso, shio, shoyu, or spicy miso. We're sticking with the miso ramen theme today, of course. The miso holds up a soup that's niboshi or dried sardines. Within the lofty tower is a white chicken liver paste. I don't think I've ever seen pate in my ramen before. Very interesting. Let's find out if I thought all of this actually worked. Pate included. It's always fun to review ramen shops from interesting places, including this elevated platform of snow here as I wait for the bus. I don't even know if the bus is gonna come. I'm switching to this side so I can see if the bus is coming now. But while I'm waiting, here's a little recap. That was a fantastic bowl, but it's interesting because miso is not something you normally pair with niboshi or a niboshi soup, which is dried sardines. But it worked well. There was a strong niboshi flavor. I was surprised how strong the niboshi was. But because the miso was so strong too, it was like they were trading places or trading punches, going back and forth between the two. The niboshi was strong, but so was the miso. In this way, they both agreed to share the stage. So you had the smokiness and bitterness from the niboshi alongside that beautiful miso base. Pretty oily soup too. Thick noodles, but not crazy thick. And of course, the toppings were unique. You've got your spring onions, your pork chashu, but what stood out obviously was the beautiful ice cream scoop of paste, which is basically chicken liver. And if you ate some of it, you can scoop up a little bit of it, of course, add it to the soup, have it with the noodles, but it really made the soup richer and also gave it a thicker body. I was gonna take the noodle pull for Instagram, a vertical shot. And as I was pulling up the noodles, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna topple over. It's so pretty. But I was like, you know what? Let it topple. And that was the noodle shot. I lost my gloves in the previous city, Hakodate. So I've got to put my hands in my pocket every so often just so they don't fall off. And a truly unique take on miso ramen. There's too much good miso ramen in the city. I'm gonna have to break this up into another video. So join me in the best of Sapporo Miso Ramen Part 2. In the meantime, this is Frank from 5am Ramen signing out, hoping you enjoyed the video, and let me know which one of the 4 you did like most. Which one would you like to eat the most? Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. I was debating there, competing with the crows. The crows here are like super crows, my God. And they don't have a problem with these temperatures. It's funny, when I was inside, the up top shot I do with my camera, every so often, my head as a shadow goes right over the bowl, and unfortunately, this was one of those places. Got a little bit of a hood hair, I guess you could call it.